Okay, we're gonna do the Hong Kong seam. We're going to sew 5/8 down a regular seam. I'm gonna mark 5/8. Gonna sew, back tack, and then end it with the back tack. Then you have your seam. Now we're gonna open up the seam, and then we're going to press it open. Once you've pressed it open, you're going to get your bias tape, and you're going to open up your bias tape and get one of the seams here, and you're going to put the edge of your bias tape to the edge of that seam, and we're going to sew it down. So if you want to pin your bias, you can. Then I'm going to trim off the rest. Now I'm going to sew down the bias. So now you're going to move everything off to one side, and you're just going to sew the bias down on that part of the seam that we added the bias. Sew it down, back tack. Should look like that. Now you're going to fold it over just like the bias, and you're going to cover that seam on the other side. And just like we did with Stitch in the Ditch, we're going to sew it right in that ditch, sewing down the bias on the other side as well. So now we're going to sew Stitch in the Ditch, so make sure that you line it up correctly to get it right in that seam. Back tack. Make sure you're holding everything down. Take your time with the seam. And then this little extra part you can just cut off. You can see the seam here because I'm using black thread, but on the other side we were able to sew it down. And now we're going to do the same thing to this side. So we're going to get our bias tape. So now we're going to open up the bias, and we're going to put it onto that raw side, and then we're going to sew down this bias. Make sure that everything is moved to the side. Sew down your bias, back tack. Trim off the extra that you don't need. So once you've sewn your bias down and you flip it over to do the Stitch in the Ditch, if you feel like there's too much bulk here, you can go ahead and trim it so this lays down nice and flat. So open up your seam again, and then just trim this part down. And then now when you roll your bias over, it'll lay more flat, and you can do your Stitch in the Ditch with more confidence that it's gonna grab for sure. So now I'm gonna sew the Stitch in the Ditch. So now you have that Stitch in the Ditch, and then this is held on the other side. So now when you open up your seam, you have a more stable, secure seam. This seam here is used for decorative purposes, mostly for lined items like lined skirts, lined jackets, lined pants, anything that it has more of a tailored look, the inside is going to have Hong Kong seams, just so everything looks nice and tailored on the inside as well. So this is a Hong Kong sleeve.